what I want to do here is let's define each professional license role. And then I'm going to look at how they overlap with the different duties that they can do, or maybe they choose not to do. And then I'll also talk about how they are different.
Welcome to the Tax Relief with Timalyn Bowens podcast. Are you behind on taxes? Is the IRS threatening you or your business? Are you overwhelmed and confused about how to resolve your tax issues? Let's join Timalyn as she explains your options and how she may be able to help. Timalyn Bowens is America's favorite EA.
Hey, family. Welcome to episode 23. So I have gotten this question a lot, actually, a lot more than I would have anticipated because, I would just think that everybody loves me and they want to work with me, but that's not always the case. And, I'm here to fill the tax literacy gap one taxpayer at a time, so I have no issue answering this question for you. Question is, do I need a tax attorney, an enrolled agent, or a CPA? So in today's episode 23, that's exactly what we're going to talk about. Tax attorney, enrolled agent, CPA. Who do I need? So, like I said, I have no issue answering this. One, because different tax professionals have different qualifications. If you remember when I did an episode about hiring a tax professional, how to choose one, I talked about the different credentials that we have in the industry. I actually told you about the very low barrier to entry to be someone just to prepare taxes. Now, there are those that aren't credentialed that most definitely do their due diligence. However, when you do see the credentials, it holds a little more weight just because you know that these people had to do knowledge-based testing. Now, I will give a disclaimer. Everybody doesn't do what they're supposed to do. So you most definitely still need to do your research, even if a person is credentialed. It doesn't take much to do a quick Google search. And also, you can check different databases, such as irs.gov, to see if this person even has a P10, which a P10 is a preparer tax identification number. If this person is authorized to actually prepare tax returns, they will be in the IRS database. If this person is in that database, you will also see their credentials unless they've opted out of being in there, which majority of people are not going to do that. So what I want to do here is let's define each professional license role, and then I'm going to look at how they overlap with the different duties that they can do, or maybe they choose not to do. And then I'll also talk about how they are different. So you've probably heard me say this before. There are only 3 licensed professionals that can represent you before the IRS. So the difference between representation and preparation, sorry, I don't know why I'm tongue-tied here, but representation is where we step into your shoes as the taxpayer and we act on your behalf. We take a tax power of attorney. So in order for us to do that, you fill out what's called a Form 2848. And again, the only licensed tax professionals that can do this on your behalf are a tax attorney, an enrolled agent, or a CPA. And if you were new to these credentials, I apologize. CPA stands for a Certified Public Accountant. All right? So let's start with the tax attorney. This is going to be a professional that focuses in the area of tax law. This person can represent you in a fraud case. They can represent you in a criminal case. but their license is also recognized by the IRS to represent you in tax matters. Now, some tax attorneys also prepare tax returns, but not all of them do. While understanding tax law, that does not mean that they have ever prepared a tax return. So if you were looking for somebody to prepare your taxes and you're interested in working with a tax attorney, that is a question that you will want to ask. They can prepare tax returns, but that does not mean that they do prepare tax returns. The thing that differentiates a tax attorney from an enrolled agent and a CPA, a certified public accountant, is that they represent you in court outside of the sphere of the IRS, right? So if you have to go to actual tax court for a legal matter, when I say legal matter, I mean something outside of negotiating your tax debt, where you have to go to actual court with a judge. You need a tax attorney. You cannot hire an enrolled agent or a CPA to represent you in the court of law. It has to be a tax attorney. And I personally have worked with some tax attorneys that specialize in SALT, and SALT is state and local taxes. But a lot of the ones that I have worked with represent on even higher up legal matters. And when I say higher up, I mean federal. But again, a tax attorney, tax law, we're looking at court outside of the IRS. But yes, they can prepare tax returns. If they're authorized by the IRS to do so, they're going to be in the P10 directory. And yes, they can do tax representation before the IRS, but they may not focus on that because, unfortunately, there are a lot of taxpayers that do run into legal trouble with the IRS that have to be represented in court, okay? Now, the form that I mentioned earlier, the 2848, it is an actual tax form. If a tax attorney, CPA, or enrolled agent is to represent you, the 2848 is something, again, that you have to have filled out with the specific tax years that they are authorized to represent you on, and also it has to be signed. If you would like to see what this form actually looks like, you can go to my YouTube channel at America's Favorite EA, and I walk you through how the 2848 should look, okay? So next, let's look at the Certified Public Accountant, CPA. Now, this is one of the most popular credentials that the average taxpayer recognizes, and is actually very ironic, kind of funny, that people recognize CPAs for doing tax work, when in reality, a lot of CPAs don't do tax returns. But again, like I mentioned, they are one of 3 tax professionals, or I should say financial professionals, that can represent you before the IRS. But just because they can doesn't mean that's what they do. Just because they can does not mean that is what they are good at. So I'm often asked why I did not become a certified public accountant. So a certified public accountant is someone that is licensed through their state to do tax work. Or I'm sorry, accounting work, not tax work. You guys pray for my mouth today. I don't know, my mouth and my brain, something's going on. But a certified public accountant most definitely can do tax work. But when we look at the exam, for me, I love taxes. I love tax law. I love educating you all. When I looked at the CPA exam, it was maybe a 1/6 and 1/8 of it even dealt with taxes at all. So again, these credentials hold weight because they're knowledge-based tests, but the CPA exam is not heavily weighted on taxes. So that is one reason why CPAs don't all do taxes. They do your more traditional accounting work, so helping with internal audits. They do audit representation, which makes sense, right? So audit representation is also a form of tax representation when you are in trouble with the IRS and they're saying, hey, looked at your return. This math ain't really mathing. We don't know how you came up with this. A CPA, especially that works with everything internally for you, may be your best bet to have represent you before the IRS, because they are going to most likely understand the ins and outs of what's happening daily in your business if they are already helping you prepare financial statements such as your profit loss statement and balance sheet. All right. But they may not do taxes, and they may not do back tax negotiation. They may do audit representation, which again, that's another form of tax representation, but the license does not mean that's what they do. All right. So last and certainly not least, I think I actually probably saved the best for last. No, I'm just kidding. Well, maybe I'm not. But we have the enrolled agent. So if you were here, you already know I'm America's favorite EA. Enrolled agents are licensed directly through the IRS. Okay? So whereas tax attorneys, they have to sit for the bar in their state, CPAs, they sit for the exam, they're licensed through the state. Because I'm licensed through the Internal Revenue Service as an enrolled agent, I am actually authorized to practice in all 50 states. Okay? Now, I don't want you to get confused, because a tax attorney and a CPA, when they are doing representation work, they actually can do representation work in all 50 states, but that does not necessarily mean they can do other type of work in all 50 states. All right, so I just want to make that distinction. I'm not saying you can't have a CPA in another state represent you, but the enrolled agent license is also the highest credential that the IRS awards. And I mentioned earlier when people ask me why I'm not a CPA, and for me, being a lifetime learner, it made more sense, because I love taxes and tax law, to actually take the special enrollment exam, which is what enrolled agents take. All three parts are just tax law. So the first part was individual tax law. Second part was businesses, so your partnerships, S corps, corporations, and then there's a whole test only on representation. So when we're looking at this and the different areas that are covered, there most definitely are things that overlap with the credentials. So when you're looking at who you need to take into account, okay, if I'm in legal trouble and have to go to tax court, a CPA is not going to be able to help me. An enrolled agent's not going to be able to help me. And when I say that, yes, we can help you get your story together. We can help you with documentation, but we cannot represent you and speak on your behalf in the actual court of law. If you are having a state or local matter, sometimes, honestly, I'm being very transparent here, an enrolled agent in your state may not be the best person, because enrolled agents don't focus on state and local law, especially because we have the whole states' rights thing, remember? So we have some states that charge income tax, we have some states that don't. If you need help with the technical part of your business and cash flow, internal processes with your money, the CPA is probably going to be your best bet. Not that a tax attorney couldn't do it. Not that an enrolled agent couldn't do it. As an enrolled agent, I absolutely could do it. If you are not familiar, you need to Google Bellarmine University right now. Hands down, best accounting program in the area. I can do your balance sheet and your income statements with my eyes closed, in my sleep, probably dreaming. But an enrolled agent license does not guarantee that that person can do that. So again, you really need to do your own research. And if you're still like, what else do I need to look at? Make sure that you go ahead and check out the prior episode, or not the one right before this, but a previous episode where I talk about how to choose a tax professional. Now, I always say, get the help you need. You want to make sure that you understand what you need while you are actually looking for a tax professional to help you. I want to invite you to an event that I'm having. It's actually going to be a live webinar. You're going to have me in real time on Zoom. It's going to be March 2nd at 3 p.m. Eastern. This webinar is for how to negotiate with the IRS even if you owe $100,000 and can't pay today. I want to make sure that you get the help you need because back taxes shouldn't ruin your life. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen today. I'd like to thank Jim Ray Consulting Services for helping me get this message out to you. I hope you found the information helpful. Did you know 1 in 50 people have a tax problem? Please share this episode with your friends and family because you never know who may need help. Again, thanks for listening. Hey, just as a reminder, this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It provides a framework and possible solutions for solving your tax problems, but it is not legally binding. Please consult your tax professional regarding your specific tax situation.